everyone, and welcome to A Balancing Act, the podcast devoted to helping families navigate memory loss and dementia. I'm Kelly Burtonshaw. Let's get started. Welcome back, everyone. When I say the word medication, what do you think of? More often than not, I hear responses like, well, they can be good and they can be bad, basically helpful and harmful. Notice that apprehensive hesitation between those two words, because most of us understand that medications can be necessary to support our health, but they can also come with side effects, complications, and rules that have to be followed. Now, what comes to mind when a loved one with memory loss and dementia refuses to take their medications? The overwhelming response I hear from families is panic. And in some cases, it is an actual emergency. It's within that moment that you become pulled in two different directions. You know the medication matters, but across from you is your loved one, someone who may not recognize the medication, may not even remember why they need it, and they want to control what they put in their body and when. So what do you do? Today, we're going to walk through how to dismantle that friction, not by pushing harder, but by changing our approach. We're going to talk about how to replace forceful demands with redirection and collaboration, and how to understand that a refusal is actually a communication. Before we go further, it's important to say this very clearly. You are not meant to figure all of this out on your own. When medication refusal becomes part of the picture, that's a signal to widen the support around you. An important first step is to reach out to your loved one's physician. Review the medications, because sometimes what looks urgent in the moment can actually be adjusted in a safer, more manageable way. Building a medication plan that is realistic for your loved one's current abilities can reduce a lot of the daily pressure. The next step is to list the people your loved one is more likely to cooperate with. Doesn't matter if it's you, another family member, the spouse, or even a friend. If they can help get your loved one to take those medications, more power to them. They just made your and your loved one's day a lot easier. Also, talk to your loved one's physician about bringing in a social worker or a case manager. When you're in the middle of trying to manage everything day to day, they can guide you through options you had no idea even existed. In some situations, they can arrange for a registered nurse to come into the home to support medication management, even on a short-term basis. This can take so much of that pressure off the situation, because when all of the responsibility sits on one person, especially in moments that feel urgent, like a loved one refusing medication, the likelihood of conflict and stress increases exponentially. And that stress often shows up in the exact moments when calm and flexibility are needed the most. Ultimately, building a team isn't just about getting help. It's about building a system that supports both you and your loved one. When your loved one refuses a medication, it rarely starts out as defiance. Sometimes it's fear. They don't recognize that pill. The color might be different, the size, the shape. Even a subtle change in taste or texture can create suspicion. Change is the enemy to people with dementia. Sometimes it's confusion. They may not understand why they need it. From their perspective, you're asking them to put something strange into their body, and that doesn't feel reasonable or safe. And sometimes it's just about control. When so much else in their life is changing, when everything feels less predictable and independence seems to be slipping away, refusing a medication can be one of the few ways your loved one can still assert a sense of choice. So instead of seeing refusal as only resistance, it can help to see it as a message that needs to be decoded. I worked with a family once whose mother had always managed her medications independently. As her memory changed, her daughter sometimes stepped in to help, and at first everything was going smoothly. But then her mother began refusing a certain pill. So the daughter responded the way most of us would. She told her mother that she had to take the medication. She explained why the medication was needed, and she reminded her mom of the doctor's instructions. And while she tried to stay calm, she was rather insistent. But her mother's resistance just kept growing. So we changed the approach. Instead of lecturing her mom about the medications, we started asking her questions. And her mother finally said, "They taste terrible." But her mother had never said that before about any of her medications. So the daughter had to do some detective work. She called the pharmacy to see what they could do. And she found out that they had changed the manufacturer for that pill, which altered the pill's coating. That tiny difference was enough to trigger distrust. Once they understood that, they were able to work with the pharmacist to find an alternative, and the refusal resolved. That moment wasn't about defiance. It was about something that just didn't feel right. Because sometimes the solution isn't in the interaction itself, it's in the medication. I want us to take a small pause together. These conversations can bring up a lot, I know. And if what you're hearing feels helpful, I hope you'll take a moment to hit that follow button. It's a simple act that helps me keep bringing you new stories, insights, and encouragement to help lighten your load, even if it's just a little. And if the platform you listen to this podcast on allows reviews and ratings, please share your experience. This moves us up on the podcast lists, and that's how we can reach more families and provide the support they need. There's another way to show your support, through a donation. Just look for the Buy Me a Coffee link in today's show notes. This helps us keep the mic on and the episodes coming. Thank you so much for listening and for being part of this community. There are situations where medications need to be altered to make them easier to take. That might mean changing the size, switching to a liquid form, or changing your delivery method. In some cases, medications can be crushed and added to favorite foods or drinks, but that always needs to be confirmed with a pharmacist or a physician because not all medications can be altered safely. But even when those adjustments are made, there will still be moments when your loved one says no. And those moments are where your response matters most. When that refusal happens, stepping back instead of pushing forward can be more effective. Set the medication aside briefly and return to it after a short break. This can reduce the emotional intensity and the stakes. That pause gives your loved one time to reset, and it gives you space to approach the moment differently. And here's something else to think about. The way the medication is presented can also influence the response. When it becomes part of a favorite activity or a familiar routine, such as alongside a favorite snack or a meal, it often feels less like a demand and more like a natural part of the day. And finally, yes, the language you use matters. Keep it simple, calm, and neutral. This reduces the likelihood of conflict and resistance. Long explanations that rely on your loved one's memory or reasoning tend to create more confusion. Sticking with short and supportive guidance will always feel more manageable for your loved one. Underneath all of this is a change in priorities. If the focus is compliance at all cost, the interaction becomes a struggle. Trust can erode, and future caregiving moments like this one can become more difficult. But when dignity becomes the priority, the approach changes. You're still working toward the same outcome, but you're doing it in a way that preserves the relationship. Now, that doesn't remove the complexity. There are medications that are critical, and there are situations where missing doses carries real risk. In those cases, stepping back and looking at the broader picture can help. Take the time to review with the doctor all the medications that are absolutely essential. Try to simplify the medication schedule when you can. And try to align medication times with those times of the day when your loved one is most receptive. All of these things can reduce that daily friction, and over time, those adjustments create consistency. Because let's face it, when medication refusal becomes a repeated conflict, it wears on both sides. When we focus on understanding instead of urgency, every moment begins to soften. Now, I can't tell you that those moments of refusal disappear, because dementia is progressive, and cognitive changes always bring unpredictability. But at the end of the day, medication management is not just about pills. It's about how your loved one experiences your presence in moments that feel scary or uncertain. So, if you are finding yourself in one of these moments, take a breath and remind yourself that this is not just about the pill. It's about what that moment and that pill represents to your loved one. We're not removing the importance of the medication. We're just changing how we get there. In today's show notes, I've included some excellent resources that provide even more tips and strategies to help make medication management less about the battle and more about your relationship. If this episode resonated with you, or if you know someone navigating this exact situation, please feel free to share it with them. These are the moments that can feel overwhelming, and sometimes just hearing a different way to approach them can make all the difference. That's why I'm here. And I hope you'll reach out to me with any questions or comments. Message me on our Facebook page. The link is in the show notes. And while you and your loved one are trying to navigate medications, please give yourself this grace. No one is perfect at this. No one. You're doing the best you can. You're doing it from a place of love. And that is enough. I'm Kelly Burtonshaw, and it was my pleasure spending time with you today. Please, keep in touch.
Hi, I'm Peggy Wright, editor and producer of this podcast. We know that juggling your loved one's care while trying to manage your own life can truly become a balancing act. We want to help you as you navigate this journey by offering our support. You can reach out to us anytime by going to our Facebook page to ask questions, leave comments for Kelly, or talk with her one-on-one by setting up a chat. The link is in the show notes. And you can find us on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. If you like what you hear, please take a moment to rate and review so we can continue to provide relevant content. We look forward to hearing from you. Thank you for listening today.